guess when they say unmute all, it doesn't mean all, just everybody else. Thanks. Welcome to the first Directors Town Hall. Hopefully we'll start out on a good note and get something out of this. We do have a couple of good topics today to go over. We'll do a quick rehash of last week just to see where everybody's at. I'm going to unmute everybody. If they choose to unmute and want to talk, let's talk, because this is a town hall. This is for everybody to chip in and be part of it, part of the conversation. That's what we're trying to do here. So let's see. Let me start by sharing. If nobody's, well, tell you what. First, let's do this. It's going to jump into the. Hopefully, everybody saw the draft letter from Linda, but let's talk about the actual the surveyor's report first. This was just basically the trial balloon, the test of what we're going to try to do on a monthly basis, and put something out in an email form that's going to go to all the directors and catch you up on everything, at least what's happening from the NSPS perspective. And if there are things during the month that come up that that each of the directors would like to share with us to be able to put in the surveyor's report every month, we'd like to be able to do that. So what's on our radar? First one's director engagement and communication. That's what we've talked about. That's what we've set a high goal for, wanting to be able to talk more often than just every 6 months, or through a few email chains here and there. That if something needs to get out and we need to talk about it sooner rather than later, we will. And I see some, let me see, questions. Let's see if I can put this together. Okay, yep, no sound. Thanks all. We did get that. I appreciate that. Next on that list was member value. We're going to be trying to put together more items for the directors to use, for the state affiliates to use, to get to your state boards to be able to use. What is the value of membership? And that's one thing you're really going to push. You're going to see a push is the value of membership. And the funny thing in trying to explain this to Elaine Ball and her staff was that NSPS, when we go out and we try to promote the profession and promote membership in NSPS, we're not promoting it directly through us. It's actually through all of the states. So if we can create more content, more interest to all of your non-members through professionals that are just not members, or students coming in, what have you, the goal here is to get the states more members. More members on the state side brings more members in on the NSPS side. It's a win-win for both sides. But this way, we also, by us putting together more content, there's a uniform message across the country of what membership is all about. And for those associations that are very, very small staffs that don't have the resources to be able to put content together and really do a membership push, we want content for them to be able to use and put that stuff out. So that's the big thing there. Program promotions and implementations. CST TrigStar, the floodplain surveyor program is really starting to catch on. We're hearing more and more interest in that. And I think we're going to end up hearing more about the hydro program. It's starting to build a little momentum that you all may or may not know about. And then we're working with AAGS. They're putting together a certified geodetic surveyor certification as well. That's something I think will be useful, and be able to do some promotion of that for out to your members as well. Government affairs updates. Rather than waiting every 6 months to get that 13-page report, we're going to try to do things that are more timely. In fact, for instance, yesterday I was back on the Hill with JB at several meeting with several different legislative groups and committees about our role with NGS and with licensing. So we'll have a report that'll go out very quickly that we'll share much sooner than waiting till next fall to hear about it. And if things are coming up that are going on in your state that you'd like to share, this is working, this is, this is the help they need, please share that with us, and that way we can get these out on a monthly basis. One thing we've heard loud and clear from several the newer members was the onboarding for new directors and being able to get used to a lot of these things of what it means to become a director, and where a lot of this a lot of the efforts and your energy needs to be going into. So we want to try to do more of that type of conversation of what being a director is all about, because even though we can put out a handbook, we can put out some directions, really being able to ask questions and being able to help lead these new directors will bring them up to speed much faster. Member engagement, we want to put together more resources and more reasons to be a member, and what they're getting for not just the NSPS $50, but what they're getting for your state membership as well, and what we're doing to be able to engage with the members and with our community. And so then strengthening that community and outreach. I tell you what, just going back through LinkedIn over the weekend and seeing all of the National Surveyors Week and Global Surveyors Day events that a lot of our professionals put on, that we need to hear those stories. We need to have those brought in. I mean, that's one reason we've hired Elaine and her team to be able to do these things, is to be able to then promote at a national level what's working at local levels to be able to do these things. So let's go ahead and bookmark the fourth Thursdays of the month. You'll get the Surveyors report on the Tuesday beforehand. Get us content. If there's stuff you want to share with everybody, that's what we want to try to do. And then we'll get together. These will be recorded. Even if you know you're not going to be able to make it, go ahead and sign up. We want to make sure that, and we had pretty good attendance for this one. I got to tell you, I was concerned that we weren't going to. I was hoping everybody would jump in on this the first thing, and that's the reason we want to make sure that this first one is a very good example of what we're going to do going forward. So go ahead and bookmark that. If we need to, we'll send out a calendar invite that goes through the end of the year at least. That way you can lock it into your calendar, and we can be good to go. Always feedback. As we go through these, what's working, what's not. This is a living, breathing document and operation. We want to make sure what works for everyone. So, all right, with that, before we jump into the NCSS letter that Linda has written, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at it and see what it's all about. That's not the one I want. Hang on a second. We want. That's going to be coming up. Let's see. Sharing, there we go. We want to go to Linda's letter. There we go. Sorry about that. All right. Like I said, hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at this and kind of review what the questions that were collected during the regional councils of what we wanted to ask Andy and NCSS of what's going to happen with this new license. So any questions right off the bat? Go ahead and throw them out there.
Tim, can you hear me? This is Tom Orsich. It's
Mr.
not
Orsich.
a new license. NCS does not issue licenses. It's a new test.
New test. Okay.
It's a new test. It has nothing, and basically, states currently states have the need to provide a professional surveyor's exam for people that are non-boundary surveyors. There are certain states that they need to test their people because of the different license categories that the states have, and right now there is not a test for NCS to put together.
Right.
Colonial States has a mapping science exam in which other states have used that exam, not very often, but have used that exam to test their applicants for the various licenses that are currently in their Practice Act. So NCS does not provide any licenses.
Right. Well, and I think it's a matter of, to be honest with you, and Linda, pipe up on this, because I know this is conversations that we've had internally. I guess, yeah, the little bit of semantics here that yes, it is a test, but ultimately, I guess it seems to me that that NCDWS, in providing this test, what is their vision of what that license that would be created based upon somebody passing this test. So I guess that to me was the semantics in talking originally to Andy and a few others within NCWS. So yes, but we'll agree that they provide tests, they don't provide licenses, but that's what the kind of the question was going to be. What is the goal of what is the goal of this license?
Well, it's not a license, it's a test.
Just for a quick moment to kind of regroup and remind from last week kind of where we are with this process. As was indicated, there were 2 questions that we'd received from NCWS looking for a response from our group. Those have been distributed by Tim, I believe. I was directed to draft a letter summarizing the subsequent questions that were gathered through the week and have that ready for review here. Obviously, we didn't have sufficient meeting notice to be able to have a vote or anything like that, but the task has been completed, I guess, as far as what was directed at our meetings, and that is to compile all of the questions that came out of the councils and et cetera into a letter that could be addressed to Andy. And one quick update, I did receive just a brief note from Andy letting us know that the Surveying Licensure Task Force is still working on its report to the council. They expect that report to be available by July 1st, if not sooner, and they will forward a copy to us. In the meantime, he's indicating that Davey McDowell will put together a brief outline of the policy process for how they implement new exams. And he's suspecting that that will answer some of the questions that we may have.
Okay.
So just wanting to provide an update there for everyone. And
sorry.
Tim.
Hey, Thomas, hold on just a second. Jim's hand was up for Jim Craddock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what I think it was John said. Semantics do play a difference. Okay, I have seen a lot of confusion from a lot of people thinking that this is a new license, and it is not. Certain states have already a path for mapping professionals, aerial photographers, NGIS people. Then they are in dire need of a standardized test. And that is what NCEES provides, is tests. Licensing is provided by the state. Any tiers, any way that looks, is what the states are going to do. So a lot of these questions, and even the questions that Linda has here in her letter, are demonstrative of the confusion of this issue. It is simply how NSPS feels, whether or not NCEES should pursue this in creating a test. And you have got 11 states that have asked NCEES for this test. That's a big chunk of the NSPS membership. So please consider that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Brooks, you were next.
Yes, thank you, Tim. I read the letter and read the questions. I think Linda did an excellent job summing up all the questions that NSPS had concerning this test. I agree with Mr. Craddock that what he summed up, but I still think that this letter, as Linda put it together, is excellent. Would clarify a lot of questions that the members have, that the directors have, and I'm in favor of sending the letter. And I say that right now because I've got to get off on another call. So Just let you know my opinion, and thank Linda for what she did. It's an excellent letter in my opinion. So I apologize for having to leave.
Nope, you're fine. This is recorded, so come back and check out all of the discussion later if you would, please.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Orsich, I think you were back up.
Okay. I just wanted a clarification. This is the NCS task force for a mapping science exam. And they also have formed a standing committee called the licensure committee. So they explore what are the needs for licensing versus the mapping science exam task force is just for this particular issue is should NCS get involved in providing a mapping or geospatial exam that can be taken by applicants at the various states. So,
Okay,
you
Mr.
know,
Craddock, you were back up.
Yeah, I wanna make sure I say this, that this was a lot of hard work for Linda to put these questions together. I no mean to demean that. I think that these questions need to be answered for our members. I'm just saying that it demonstrates their confusion. One suggestion or question that I would ask Linda, would it be possible to put question 8 as number 1? I think that's the main question for us to get answered by them. Because if we can talk to our members more, maybe that'll give us more clarification. And on a
It can
side note,
certainly be
Tim,
reordered.
yeah, okay. On a side note, Tim, I think this town hall is great. Just want you to know, even though I've only been in here for 17 minutes, it is a great venue, and I think it will help us not be so confused at our spring and fall meetings. Thank you.
Exactly, and that's the whole purpose is as these types of things come up, crossing my fingers that we don't have any more issues like this that come up between meetings. But of course, true to form, we usually do. So this is I think this is a better time to, instead of wasting time at a business meeting. So we can work some of this stuff out before we get to the business meetings. That's great. So thank you for the comments. Mr. Mike from Washington.
All right. So speaking on the issue of the fact that this is simply an exam and not a license, I would just like to point out that question 2 forwarded to us by NCSS asked, do you believe an NCSS mapping science exam would encourage more of your members to seek licensure as a professional surveyor? So I think it's quite clear that the intent of this exam is to lead to licensure under the professional surveying umbrella. So the idea that this is just an exam that's going to live off in exam land somewhere and not have real world implications on our profession, that's not, they asked the question. So I think that's important to consider. Similarly, during Andy's presentation, his slide on this subject said one of the bullet points was provides a new avenue to licensure, reduces obstacles. So I think we need to think of this in the context of licensure. Very technically, it's only an exam, but I think we all know that's not where it ends.
Right, exactly. Mr. Amy, you are next. I don't know, you're muted. There
Hear
you
me
go.
now? Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, just following up on what Mike just said, he talked about the second question. The first question says that NCES is considering developing a new mapping science pathway to surveying licensure. This pathway would provide a non-boundary professional surveyor license. So semantics is important here. We are kind of mixing the map, the test, the exam itself, and the license back and forth. And I think we're doing it, and it appears NCES is doing it as well. I am really confused about what a non-boundary professional surveyor is. I don't believe there is such a thing, and I don't want to see such a thing.
All right, thanks. Mr. Dolan, you were next.
To echo the previous comments, I think this is a great format and the way it's set up, and I applaud Linda for her letter, but I would also join in with Craig in that I don't want to see, and I will go back definitely and have a discussion with my board, but I don't want to see surveyors being licensed and all of a sudden they can do everything but boundary work. We're having enough trouble trying to get professional land surveyors back into the profession to fill our thinning ranks. And I don't see this as being something that's going to do that. I just think that it gives people who shouldn't be surveyors they get that license. It scares me for the continuation of our profession. I don't think it's going to be good for us. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Orsic, you were back up.
Thank you. To answer the question, doesn't know what a non-boundary surveyor is, read the South Carolina law because they have non-boundary surveyors. So there is such a thing already in existence. All of the licenses are going to be issued by the states, not by NCS. And also these questions that were asked of NSPS, they weren't just questions given to NSPS. They were given to a multitude of different organizations that are basically do mapping or topographic surveying. And that's why the question was asked if your members would be interested in becoming surveyors. So it wasn't directed specifically at NSPS. So yeah, the question to NSPS doesn't really fit because you're already surveyors.
Okay. Nancy, you were next.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the meeting on Friday, and I did just get this letter this morning, so I haven't had a chance to fully read all of it, interpret all of it. But you mentioned earlier that there are 11 states that currently are interested in some kind of exam for licensure, but that they already license people now in, say, photogrammetry or something. And are those states, are those in non-boundary surveyors, how are they licensed? Are they licensed as surveyors with just specialty attached to it?
Mr. Kleinman, you were next, but I tell you what, I'm going to let Mr. Orsic jump over here real quick.
Okay, there isn't 11 states. There's 11 states that have requested this test. And part of NCS's procedure is if they wanted to have a new test, engineering test, surveying test, any kind of test, they have to have 10 states, a minimum of 10 states requesting to be tested on that particular subject matter, such as a software engineering exam, agricultural engineering exam, that kind of stuff. For example, North Carolina grandfathered in photogrammetrists. They grandfathered them in, and basically they are professional land surveyors, but they have to stay within their expertise of practice. So they are called professional land surveyors. There's no attachment to it. There's no designation. They basically rely upon the ethics of the photogrammetrists not to do boundaries. So to answer that question, South Carolina has it. I believe North Carolina has grandfathered in photogrammetrists, non-boundary surveyors. They have granted them professional surveyors licenses. And those states, those particular states, if we want to get new people in, we have to have a test to be able to test them now, because the grandfathering period has ended for those states. So hopefully that answers that question.
Okay.
Can
Go-
I just
go-
do a follow-up, Tim?
Yes, go ahead, please.
And yeah, that does, and thank you for that explanation. So do we know these, what was there like a survey sent out by NCs or somebody looking, I mean, how did these 11 states come about?
They basically, they were all, yes, all the states were questioned on basically the same questions that were given to NSPS and to all these other organizations that, you know,
Was
are
was it the state
affiliated with
board,
mapping. Yes, to the
the
state
board of
board.
registrations, or
Yes, the state boards.
okay,
Yes. And then they came back and said, yes, we're interested. I would say that I'm not sure because again, the report has not been issued. So therefore, I know of 11 states that gave letters. I would say a lot of the states were interested, but you know, did not say they had a need at this present time. And then some of the states say, no, we're not, we're against this. So I'm not saying that it was a landslide of, yeah, we want this. But
okay,
basically it's exploring what we're trying to do. And again, I read the letter that Linda wrote, and again, raised a lot of good questions. But the thing to have modules, that has gone away. So if your state only requires the fundamentals and professional surveyors exam, that's all that's right now they would have to take. Now the Western states, they wanted NCS to develop a public land surveyor exam. So in lieu of the Western states believed that their state-specific exams there was a lot of overlap between the various states. So if they could have just one exam so that they could get reciprocity between Oregon and Washington and Idaho, those kind of states that pretty much have the same public land surveying requirements and that the states want to test on them. That's how the public land survey exam came about. But it's up to the individual states on what exams you need to take. Now, from what I can gather, the public land surveyor's exam is not gonna replace the professional surveyor's exam. From what I can gather, it
correct,
is going to be in addition of the professional surveyor's exam and the fundamental surveyor's exam, depending on what the individual state laws indicate.
correct. Yeah, and I'm sorry, Tim, just, so is there any other states that NSPS knows of that offer licensure to non-boundary surveyors?
From
And
what I can
isn't the
gather, there's like only 3 or
decision
4.
and
North
so really
Carolina,
the decision for license and what they call it is up to the state, not up to NCs.
correct, and not up to NSPS. No, we do not get into regulation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Dick Kleinman, you were next.
Well, thanks, Tim. I sent both you and Linda a quickly scratched out diagram that I think would, if we asked NCEES to provide something like this. We all talk about this, but I don't think we're on the same page when we say words. I think pictures would help. Just a flow chart that says, here's the boundary surveyor path going through the fundamental survey thing, and just like list the category of questions and the number of them. And then they go through the PS. I guess that way we would see what are you tested on. I'm a big advocate, like, you can call yourself whatever you've been tested on, but don't claim you know something you've never been tested on. So I would like to see something like that produced. And I think it should be, we're all are trying to compare it to the engineering world. And, so many of us have gotten licensed. I've been licensed 45 years ago. I don't know what the test says, it includes now. So if we knew what it was in, do that chart for the engineering world so we see how that's set up. do it for with this PLSS exam and do that chart with the new non-mapping thing. And one last comment is like, I asked Andy, oh, well, after a while, I told him, please improve communication between the state boards and the state surveying organizations. In Wisconsin, I believe the state attorneys don't want our licensing board talking or speaking for the licensing board to the state organization because they're afraid of de-licensure, issues and stuff like that. So there's a lack of communication, and there's lots of states that the governors are refusing to fill these board positions. So there is the surveyors don't have a voice even on the survey licensing board. Communication has to be improved, and please draw, I'm spatial, I see a chart and I'll understand it. I think it would benefit a lot of other people too. Thank you.
It would be helpful. Joe, you were next. Mr. Dolan going once.
I know I couldn't get my mouse to move over to unmute me. I had some conversations with a couple of the folks. There's a block of states in the Southeast that make up the majority of the 11 states. And I think that they got together, and from what I understood was that some of the members who are on the state licensing boards, who are also directors of NSPS, decided that they wanted to get this license imposed on all of the GIS people, simply because that way they said, well, that way we can regulate them. And, I don't know if that's a particularly good reason to want to license non-surveyors as surveyors. But I think that was the impetus that got this thing started. And if those boards in the Southeast are anything like the New Jersey board or some of the other boards I'm familiar with, there would be very little implementation of enforcing the regulations. If they're anything like our board, it would be a waste of time to even do it. And I think a lot of states are very reluctant to issue any kind of disciplinary enforcement on. We have firms that are making major site plans in the state with no licensed surveyors, and they said, well, what do you want us to do about it? They're non-licensed, so we can't enforce. We can't do anything for them. And then you have people who are in violation of many of the state regs who are licensed, but they don't do anything to them either. So, but I think that's where this idea actually came from. It's more of we think we can enforce them if we license them.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Jim Craddock, you were next. Mr. Craddock going once. There we go.
Yeah.
Jim, you're live.
I'm sorry. My headphone was acting up on me. I apologize. Okay, so North Carolina grandfathered aerial mappers or aerial photogrammetrists in mid-2000s. They also grandfathered some GIS personnel too. There was a lot of consternation that these people were going to be doing boundary surveys and messing up the world, and that never came about. There's not been a big rush of people doing illegal surveys because they have some license like that. So, but that's North Carolina's experience. And South Carolina and North Carolina does call them all PLSs, directional surveyors. South Carolina has a tier system in which you would get a different license that would not allow you by the name in the license to do boundary surveys. I just want to clarify that they went a different direction.
Okay, Mike McEvely, you're next.
So I recognizing that that on this town hall, we don't have the ability to crystallize all of our thoughts and decide what our answers to these two questions are. That's going to come later after this town hall, after this letter, over the next several months. I know there's zone meetings coming up in April and May with NCSS that leads to some of the content that shows up at their August meeting. And I guess I would just like to hear from Linda on what her plan is and what the XCOM's plan is to engage with NCSS. Is it going to be a committee? Is it going to be, how is that, or do you know yet, how that engagement with NCSS on behalf of NSPS members is going to take place and what involvement directors are going to have in that process?
Linda, you're up.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're here trying to formulate, right? I mean, these questions came out ahead of our spring meetings. The XCOM elected to bring it to the directors at our spring meetings, which we did. The conversation started. We gathered the questions that you all see in this letter. Remember, all of these questions came from you all, from your councils, from your, conversations and those things. So there's obviously a lot of, good, thoughtful energy going into this topic. And so I think that's what we need to figure out next is, the direction given to me was to draft the letter summarizing all the questions and concerns and thoughts that we gathered at last week's meeting, which is where we are currently. So next steps would be, what do we do with this letter? And as far as I understand, we can't have a vote today because we didn't have sufficient notice. It's 10 days notice to be able to do anything, send this letter or not send the letter. And then I think we need to formulate next steps. And this is a town hall. Bring your ideas forth. We obviously all need to be in lockstep on this, whether it's XCOM carrying it out or a special committee carrying it out. Those are the things we need to get a thumb on the pulse of now. And thank you all for attending ahead of our fall meeting so that we can continue to move forward with this particular effort. We know we have a meeting coming up on the 4th Thursday next month. So I would recommend that we come up with a game plan for, if we need to take a vote on taking an action, let's make a plan for that happening at the next meeting. Maybe that's as simple as sending this letter.
If I may follow up on my question, sorry. So the 4th Thursday of next month is the day of the South Zone meeting, so we will have missed 2 of the NCSS zone meetings by then. I would just encourage you, Linda, to put together a group of people representing a cross-section of states, because as Joe said, I heard the same thing, that this is not just southeastern states, but primarily southeastern states trying to solve what appears to be a relatively, I don't want to say localized, but specific type of problem within their states. There are going to be unintended consequences to states that don't have that same issue as a result of this. One thing that comes to mind is a framework for mapping organizations to lobby state legislatures to pressure state boards to create additional pathways to licensure through this reducing obstacles to licensure thing that we've all been dealing with for years now. So I think mobilizing a group of people to brainstorm on this, understand who we know on state boards that are participating in this, what relationships we can leverage to get a better feel and understanding for how this is all going to unfold, and to try to do so in advance of the zone meetings that will start here in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Linda, any follow-up, or I'll move on to the next one?
Let's hold that for now. Hold that thought. Let's get through the rest of our comments here, and then we'll circle back if that's acceptable to everyone.
Nope, that is fine. Next up on the list, I see Craig Amy was next in line.
Yeah, I have a question. We've talked about the states wanting this, a handful of states wanting this. What about the organizations such as the photogrammetrists, the GIS personnel, remote sensing organizations? Do they want this as well?
know if Tom is on the line or Jim Hollinsworth, if you can speak to that question.
I can answer. Basically, yes. Most of the other organizations were in favor of this because, again, they have a need for testing, and this would suffice for that need for testing. One of the things is that the ultimate goal of being licensed is to protect the public. So it's not to be able to regulate people. It's to protect the public from basically what you have right now is a lot of drone surveyors, drone mappers that are putting out products that are not necessarily accurate enough and are misleading. So that's basically the goal, is to protect the public from people not doing proper mapping or precise locations.
Okay,
Just
thank,
circling back to the question itself, that's included in our letter, as you may note, as one of the numbered items in there. I have heard there were groups that were opposed, and I've heard there are groups that were for.
I would say the majority were in favor, but again, the report hasn't been issued, and that is detailed.
Correct, correct, and
we
nor
went
have we
the
gotten any
last three.
response to those questions during Andy's presentation either. So I would say at this point we don't know.
Right, and NSPS doesn't know at this point. And to answer the question, when is NSPS's response due? That time has passed. From what I gather, they are producing the report. The committee's going to make its recommendations. They're going to discuss it at the zone meetings. After the zone meetings, they're going to discuss it they're going to present it to the board of directors for NCES. And at that time, however the charges move forward, it will be presented to the general council, the general membership at their August meeting in New Orleans. So
okay, Tom,
all
thank
of
you.
this is exploratory at this point.
Yeah. Tom, first of all, thanks for your input. It's kind of made me better understand this whole concept here. One thing you just mentioned is protecting the public, and that is one of my chief concerns here. In Michigan, we don't have any sort of a classification as a non-boundary
Right.
surveyor. It doesn't exist. And we all know our profession has suffered greatly from people not understanding exactly who we are. But I think the one thing that people understand us to be is the guys that do the boundary
Yes.
work. And now we're looking at a pathway, as NCS said, a pathway to surveying licensure, which will create a category potentially of surveyors that cannot do boundary surveys. And I don't think we are really protecting the best interests of the public if we're creating more confusion about who surveyors really are.
Well, I got a question for you. Does your state regulate topography?
No, it's under our surveying license.
Pardon?
It is under our surveying license,
So
but not
your state
separately.
does basically. There's 37 states that have in their practice act that a surveyor can do topography. It's not exclusive, but they can do topography. So
Correct.
basically, topography is regulated by surveyors. And what has happened is that basically, your state in Michigan, if someone is doing photogrammetric work, a certified photogrammetrist, they're surveying without a license because they're doing topography. So this helps clarify that. So it is already regulated in the majority of the states. Mapping is regulated. And what we did in Maryland, I happened to sit on the state board of Maryland for 24 years, and I was also on the board of directors of NCES. So I've been exposed to this for quite some time. And what we did in Maryland was we gave an exemption to certified photogrammetrists and other professionals that are certified, that have the expertise, education, and experience in providing precise mapping. And the big definition is, when are you mapping and when are you surveying? And that's the difference. Because if you produce a road map, you're not surveying, you're producing a map, that kind of thing. So that's what we're trying to clarify with the public is when are you surveying and when are you just mapping?
We have had issues in Michigan with that very same problem, and the way that it came down is that as long as there aren't boundary lines or dimensioning to boundary lines, then anybody can make a map.
But can they do
As long
precise locations and authoritative locations?
Well, yeah,
That,
obviously a teenager with a drone cannot. But I don't know that the public would have any clue about any of that. They would just, it's a map.
but if you,
So, but doesn't ASPRS, wouldn't they be a better body to be evaluating capabilities for mapping than NCES?
well, I can, the Colonial States Boards, which is a formation of 20 states that don't have public lands, basically, they worked in conjunction with APRS to develop a mapping science exam that currently is owned by Colonial States, but is housed in NCES data bank, but it's still owned by Colonial States. And I think they see this maybe as an overlap on what they might have, what they're already producing in their certificate program. But the burden of producing an exam is very costly. And if they don't have to do it, and if NCS is doing it for a broader reach of organizations that require some type of certification or examination for their credentials to be given, then, that's why they may be in favor of this because, to produce an exam, I mean, it would cost tens of thousands of dollars to produce the exam that is justifiable and can, be held up in court. And NCS is willing to explore, should we produce this mapping science exam? And there was a lot of people that would be interested in taking this exam. We even posed the question to fundamentals of engineering exam takers. Would you be interested in it? And there was a good response because, again, engineers do a lot of mapping, and basically, a lot of states, most states allow engineers to do topographic surveying. Simple as that. But the problem is, my experience has been that a lot of engineers aren't trained, aren't educated, and aren't experienced, and are not tested on, the three-legged stool of getting your license. They're not tested in that, but their laws allow them to do it. So you have to respect their ethics on if they know how to do what they're giving to the public.
Mr. Murphy, you're next, but I'll yield to the president if she wants to jump in here.
If I might, just a couple of quick comments to follow up there. And I do not want to muddy the waters further with this conversation, but I think it's relevant to bring up the model law work that Gary Kent and his committee have been doing, because it parlays into much of the conversation that's kind of unfolded here in attempting to, I think maybe we're struggling with trying to define surveying or define surveying versus mapping. Maybe the question we should be asking is, for what purpose? And that's really where the exploration in the model law committee has gone. Gary did a great job of laying out the work that's been done there in being able to better define when is it prudent and necessary for a licensed individual to be performing said tasks, rather than who is a mapper versus a surveyor. I'm just throwing that out there for contemplation. Tim Murphy, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, Murph, you're next up.
Right, there we go. first of all and foremost, great town hall meeting so far. Good to hear everybody out here communicating, sharing their ideas and thoughts. This is what it's all about, right? This topic is obviously stated by all the comments is not black and white. And I think even with the very smart and educated people we have here, we have different opinions, and yet we're all being enlightened by information that we didn't know. I mean, we had Andy out at our meeting last week. We've been talked about it last week. We're talking about it more, and we're learning more things right now here on the spot. So that's all really good. What I wanted to speak of is the challenge that we have with as directors and individuals casting a vote for on behalf of our state, and our state making a statement as to what their beliefs are and how they're going to get this information. And I say that specifically. I had a coworker email me what he got from his chapter, and it was verbatim the message that we got from I think it was from Davey McDowell in January. You know, that just the NCs is thinking about doing this, question 1, question 2. And they, as a chapter, they were asked to talk about this and get back to them. So they're not getting any of this information in context. And that's, I think, one of the other challenges that we need to think about. You know, not so much whether, I mean, side note, there is a question as to what directors can and need to be able to speak for their state and on the spot for, or versus bigger issues like this where no, we need to get some input. But I guess my point is, great, we get input from the states, but if they're not getting the benefit of this conversation and the different sides to the argument and the, you know, the different nuances, how are they going to make an informed and educated decision?
Agreed. Henry, you're next.
All right, you hear me, Tim?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we shouldn't act like all this is new. This has been going on for 8 years. You know, we've had Tim and other representatives at NCES, and I think Mark Sargent's gone now for the last 3 or 4 years. You know, this has been coming down the pipe a long time, so it's not anything new. To correct Joe Dolan on something, no, the states didn't get together and scheme to put this thing together because of one reason or another. This came from other parts of the country, not just from the Southeast, but there were some states in the Southeast that were trying to drive this thing. South Carolina does have 3 licenses. We have a GIS license, a photogrammetric license, and a land boundary surveying license. And we don't really have a whole lot of trouble differentiating those because they've been in effect since about 2001. And they were drawn up by the head of the South Carolina Geodetic Survey, who was also a board registration member, who saw what could happen with GIS. And what's happening now is a lot of mapping projects and control projects and things being set by GIS professionals and for what the photogrammetrists are doing. So he headed that off because his thought was for somebody to be held accountable for work that's not right, they need to have to be licensed, and otherwise they're just certified. And I'm not trying to belittle anybody on that. I said that at the meeting the other day, but they're certified and they're not licensed, so there's not regulated by anybody. If I'm wrong about that, then somebody needs to step up and let me know that. The bottom line is the GIS and the photogrammetrists and the hydrographers and so on and on and on, they've all been contacted about this. 29 different organizations were contacted besides NSPS. Actually, NSPS was one of the 29 and got feedback. And that's where we are. We're in the feedback stage and formulating this. The task force was formulating everything. And they wanted to go out to, felt like it would be best for it to go to the zones coming up in the next month and expose the zones to where we are at that time before coming back. I'd love to see these questions answered that we have. I'd love to see that kind of response so we can better educate our people on what's going on before we, quote unquote, have a vote. I know people are really wanting to shut this thing down and move on. I think we need to be fair with both sides of this thing. I'm not on either side. It may sound like I'm on the NCSS side. I'm not. I'm not on either side right now because I see good for both and I see problems for both. So I even asked the question, you know, we've got a great growth going on with 4-year degrees. And that's one thing that NSPS and NCSS agree on is a 4-year degree. We have nice growth going on there and facts that prove that 73% of first-time takers pass that exam now, the FS and the PS exams, and 48% don't. And so that's growth. And when you look at how many more professional surveyors, 400, I believe it was 89 or 419, I can't remember. 9 was the last number, I remember that. This more this year than last year across the country, that's pretty daggone good from what we've had prior to 3 years ago. But the real threat, I think, to some of these states is they're concerned about deregulation. If we pass this law, or if NCSS, it's not a law, if NCSS adds this exam, then the exam is available and it proves to any state legislature that we've created a pathway to generate more professional surveyor licenses, even though they're not land boundary, because there's a lot of mapping going on in this country right now. I agree with Tom Orser just a minute ago about, you know, if you're just doing a road map or some kind of map like that, that's one thing. If you're doing setting control for mapping projects, that's another. But deregulation is a concern for a lot of people at NCSS and protecting the public. You know, if you've got a license, then you have to protect the public. If you don't, you may be a little more cavalier about how you're doing the work. You know, I know somebody like Linda who has both certifications and a South Carolina license will do her work as good as any of us could ever hope to do. I'm not concerned about folks like her, but I think there are others, and like we talked about, the drone flyers that create a problem. And the last thing I'd like to say is this. Keep in mind that nobody has to take the exam. It's up to your state to decide if you have to take an exam. I'm gonna be really, I mean, I have no idea if South Carolina will ever require any of these folks to go that have a certification to be licensed to do this kind of work. They'll probably be grandfathered in. That would be an awful lot, a pretty big hardship on folks that have started their professions and have their careers in place to go back and make them take that exam. So there's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of what ifs, a lot more information for us to talk about and regurgitate and talk about some more. But I think we'd be better served if we can get these questions answered and do a little better with that instead of just guessing or thinking that somebody said and it's just being misconstrued. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Mike Given, you were next.
Yes, I agree with Linda that this subject really dovetails into the model law. And when we met it last week, we were going to try to get the model law out to the membership, I believe, was what was discussed. And we really, Pennsylvania really needs that because we were trying to change our regulations to incorporate, if not all of the model law portions of it. And I would really like to have a copy of the marked up version that we saw at the meeting last week. If we could send that out to the membership, to the directors, I'd appreciate that.
We'll get on that and it'll be sent out first thing in the morning. Sorry about that, Mike. I thought we had already gotten that out, but we'll have it taken care of by in the morning. Joe Dolan, you're next.
Just as a thought, I know Linda said that she couldn't send this letter because of the 10-day rule. I would encourage, you know, if we need to take a vote on waiving that or something, you know, that would be up to Linda and to do that. But I would rather see this sent to NCSS sooner rather than later. Henry, I apologize if you thought I was insinuating there was a Southeast cabal that was in favor of this. I do apologize if you took that to be that way. But in any event, thank you.
It's okay, Joe. Don't worry about it.
I'm not.
Okay. All right. Ed, we'll pull the question that you've posted in there. That's a mouthful to read. Nancy, you were next, followed by Jim Craddock.
I just wanted to ask do we have a date that NCs has requested a response by?
This
No,
is Linda.
they-
I can weigh in as well. No, I've asked on a number of occasions. We've not been given any further drop dead date. That's not been clearly communicated, just that they're going through their processes, et cetera. And so, no, we've not been given a defined date.
But I think somebody mentioned earlier that there were zone meetings coming up soon. And so is that the goal, to try and get something to them before the zone date?
What I said is and this is Henry, Nancy. What I said is that the NCAAS was hoping to get the task report together to send to each zone before they had their meetings prior to sending it out to anybody else. The results of our task report. So I think that was intended to be sent back to NSPS for them to take a look at it.
I guess just as a housekeeping note, the next XCOM meeting is Thursday, April 10th. And because there's not a quorum here, there wasn't sufficient notice according to our bylaws to be able to hold any kind of official meeting today. I would highly recommend not trying to skirt the rules. And if anything, we could move this and push XCOM, if so desired, to address this letter and have it sent out on the April 10th meeting. I'll just throw that out for consideration. See, it was Nancy, and then Jim Craddock, you were next.
Yeah, I just want to throw my thank you for the clarification on the 10-day rule, whatever that rule was that Linda was talking about. So we don't have a quorum here. That's, I understand. But I do want to throw my hat in the ring with Joe, Nolan, and Henry, that it would be best to send this letter out sooner rather than later. I think there are good questions here that people need to have answers to. So thank you for sharing a pathway to do that, possibly, Tim. Thank you.
You bet. And I guess the good thing is, let's see. I think Clendenning had to drop off. He had another meeting. You've got a bunch of officers on here that are listening in and participating. So if we get some marching orders, I think they're going to get it. Ed, you were next.
Hey, I just put a few links into the question, not having any other way to upload them to the forum here. And basically, it's how Rhode Island deals with the NC's rules in the form of an MOU with the GIS practitioners here in Rhode Island, and in the task list from Rhode Island and Massachusetts, I loaded up the links to those documents, which basically two charts that show the agreements between the engineers and the surveyors in here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So I just want to echo some of my thoughts I had at the meeting, that every surveyor should try to get onto the local GIS board or steering house in their state to have a voice. And like I say, here in Rhode Island, we have some peace in the valley with those documents. As far as aerial is concerned, surveyors have always been in charge of aerial, with the final being the ground check, for the simple fact that, we don't want to have any manholes that are plotted as puddles, or puddles plotted as manholes, and those type of things. So we were responsible for the ground control and the final field checks, as how aerial has always worked here in Rhode Island. I don't know if any of this information is helpful or going to muddy the waters, as Linda says, but I'd like to think it's forward thinking here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And like I say, it's these are documents that were outlined in the rules, the model rules, and the model law was adopted here in Rhode Island, pretty close to it, except for engineering surveys. So that's my 2 cents, and I don't believe that a lot of the GIS practitioners want to move towards licensure. I believe they have GISP and a few other programs that kind of fulfill their needs to separate their professional practitioners. That's all I really have, Tim.
All right, thank you, Ed. I will copy all of that information. We'll include it in the email going out afterwards with a link to this recording for anybody. Well, it's going out to all the directors, so you'll see what, if you haven't already taken a peek on what the question is. I'm not sure if you guys can see the question or not. We'll include that. Next up, Mr. Edwards. Davey going once. Davey going twice. No questions?
I'm muted.
There you go. You're on.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Well, I was saying thanks, Tim and Linda, for putting a town hall meeting on. This is something that I think NSPS needs. I have a couple of things. First off, I wanted to point out what the response was that Davey McDowell gave me when we responded that we were going to wait to respond. So yes, the deadline to respond to those questions was due a month ago. But after talking with Andy a little bit, I think Linda also talked with Andy a little bit about this. He basically told us that we could get it in at any time, but Tom is right, Henry's right. We have our zone meetings coming up. They are going to come in with a response to the report at those zone meetings, and we'll be discussing them in the survey forum. So with that being said, I agree with Henry. I think we need to get something, maybe a list of our, concerns and what we do like about this, because I'm hearing both of them. I'm hearing concerns, and I'm hearing that there is a good support to this as well. And maybe Linda, you could probably craft something up to put in there as a response, but I don't think we have to answer yes or no to those questions. I think we can just give a response of, here's what the directors are feeling based on, this forum. I don't know if this really has to be voted on to be, moved along. That's just my 2 cents.
I think thank you, Davey, just to kind of circle back to where we are here currently. It's a fantastic discussion. Thank you everyone for your participation. The consensus the last week at our meetings, I believe, was to gather all of these questions, thoughts, concerns into a letter to formalize that and get that potentially sent off to NCs as a response, not taking a position either way, but formalizing those thoughts, I guess, that we were able to gather at last week's meeting. So I think we have that piece completed, unless there are things that have come out in today's forum that need to be, that this particular letter needs to be amended with or the like. In that, I would encourage that we consider sending this letter potentially that's been drafted as a piece of communication. It's not a response either way. We're not, for it or against it. We're simply seeking additional information at this point, but it would formalize a response back to NCEES. And I think what Tim was alluding to is XCOM is meeting next week. Unfortunately, I will be in Brisbane at FIG, but we have our fearless president-elect who can lead that meeting and very capable officers at the ready who are on this call. And so I have confidence that that conversation can be had and we can continue forward. I will also take under consideration formulating a group, a committee, or looking at our existing committees to potentially get a few individuals to roll up sleeves and really dig in on this particular topic. I guess that would be my thoughts at this point.
Okay, next up, Dick Kleinman.
Yeah, I'd agree with Davey. I don't know that this really needs to be voted on. We're not giving them a up or down. We're just asking for more information. The only thing I'd say, maybe Linda say on there, maybe make it a little more clear that we are seeing, like Davey said, both people for and against this. You really don't say that in there. You just say, hey, we don't know what to say. But I guess it'd be nice to tell them that we are seeing some positive and some negative, and we just need more information. So yes, I'd rather see it go out, because at this point, if I pose those 2 questions to my state board that NCWS gave me, there'd be all these questions and I wouldn't know how to respond. And I might put my own, thoughts into it too. So I don't even know how to explain this to them without, you get 22 questions already. So send it out, I'd say.
Very good. Nancy, you were next.
Just a clarification. Was there a motion at the meeting on Friday regarding this letter?
Last week, what did we do last week?
Yes,
At the
there
board
was,
of
Tim.
directors meeting? And
There
what
was.
was the motion?
The motion was basically to bring it up at this town hall after a lot of discussion back and forth.
Just to
It was
discuss it
directing me
and
to-
not
directing me to assemble a letter with our questions and concerns to be presented for this town hall.
but was it to be voted on? Or was it just to be presented?
I believe so, because even at that point, Patty had pointed out that we did not have the 10-day notice necessary to vote. So we cannot vote on
No,
it at this forum.
No, I understand we can't vote on it today. That's correct. You'd have to call a special meeting to do that. But I guess I'm just wondering what the actual motion was. Was it that we had to vote on it? Or was it just to direct you to write a letter to present at this meeting, at this town hall?
Mr. Secretary, do you have your notes handy? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yep, there you
They're
go.
there at home.
Okay.
Well, if it was that we had to vote on it, then I think the president or a majority of the board of directors can request a special meeting to be held in 10 days. But if the motion was just for Linda to prepare this letter and present it at the town hall, that's a different motion or a different, path.
What I recall was the direction was to, yes, for her to put this letter together and to discuss it here. And the original thought was if it needed a vote at that point in time, we could do it. But then, ta-da, we've got bylaws that say 10-day notice. So my like I said, my suggestion is, we've got enough people here to just be able to I would just say, advise the XCOM the next time they get together, consider sending this out if there's enough people that want that done.
For me, I would like to actually know what the motion was. I don't want to say, yes, go ahead and do it if the motion was that we had to vote on it.
I will get the language.
We don't know what the motion is.
I'll forward that
hard to
motion to Tim tonight then
Yes.
you can send it out to everybody.
Okay.
Stop all. I sincerely apologize. So I've got to step off of this particular meeting. Please fellow officers keep me informed, and Tim, of anything that I need to be aware of and take action on here. And thanks all for your participation today. This has been great.
Thanks, Linda. Next up, Mike McEvely.
Sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking. A couple things. One is I think we should ask a question about how this interacts with the model law changes that Gary Kent's been working on. I skimmed this letter just now. If there's something in there about that, I apologize if I missed it. But I think that's an important question to ask, just to see what NCSS's perspective on how these are going to interact with each other and whether there's a conflict there. The other thing is, my recollection was that we authorized Linda to write a letter that we were going to review here. I don't think I remember there being a ratification element to that motion that we had to execute here, but I could be wrong. Obviously, Craig can get that language to Tim and we can figure that out. But I do think that we should at least get this letter out. It's not a good look if NCSS perceives any indifference on our end.
Agreed. Tim Murphy, you were next.
Yeah, just kind of echo a lot of the statements that have just been said. I think we should send a letter. I think that several people have mentioned, and I think Linda thought it was a good idea as well, creating a task force to look into this further, to be the group of people that are looking into that. I think we could add that to the letter. You know, I think as far as timing goes, as a professional organization, we owe a response, even though the reality is, and I wish Linda was here to kind of echo what I'm saying, but I think we were told that our questions wouldn't be answered till July 1st. It doesn't, and these questions have already been that were given to Andy prior to our meeting, and he answered a few of them at the meeting, but most of them are still unanswered. So I think it's good that we go on the record to say, and I do agree with, I think Dick mentioned that we, you know, hey, some members are for, some members are against. We have a lot of questions. There's just uncertainty. We need more information. I think that goes a long way to position ourselves as the professionals that we are. We can't just blatantly say yes or say no to something when something is complicated. And then the last thing I just want to mention, I kind of agree with a couple of comments about that this letter is somewhat innocuous, that Linda could go ahead and send it. That is a perfect example of, I think, the challenge that we face right now. That, you know, the group of our membership throughout the country has elected us as officers. We have jobs to do, and there's a certain time and place that we have to be able to just do the job of what we think is best for NSPS. Now, if we were stating an opinion that NSPS is all for this, oh, that's crossing the line. Now we're stating an opinion for our membership. But I don't feel like we can't be handcuffed to not do things. So I'm all in for sending a letter, and would agree with the few people that spoke up to say that we don't really need a board approval to send a letter. If we need a board approval for every letter, every thing that we do at XCOM, oh my gosh, we better start doubling the meeting time to ratify all the decisions that were made over the course of 6 months.
Thank you, Tim. Mr. Williams, you were next.
So I did talk to Gary about the model law, and he said that the model law will have to change to incorporate this if it moves forward. I did get a chance to speak with the Indiana board regarding all these. I feel the letter is very comprehensive and it covers all the concerns that the Indiana board had brought to my attention, and then some. And as far as, you know, being for or against, it doesn't state that either way. And there's mixed feelings even within the Indiana board. I had one of the board members that said, you know, he's against it, and then he was for it in some instances as well. So, you know, the other thing to keep in mind is it took, almost 4 years to get the PLSS exam ready, and it's still not even going to be implemented until 2027. So we have time on this, and I think the letter does need to be sent so they understand what all of our concerns are. And moving forward, you know, like I said, this is a very comprehensive list of concerns, and I think that everything that I had brought to the Indiana board has been addressed with their concerns. So I'm in favor of sending the letter. And if I remember correctly, the motion was that a letter would be sent and we would talk about the concerns we put in the letter in this meeting.
Thanks, Don. Ms. Brooks, you are next.
I again just wanted to confirm what everybody else has been saying. I don't have the formal motion in front of me, but I do have my minutes from the meeting. And I believe that the very reason that we did exclude from that motion that we would be voting here, again, was, as you said, we didn't have the time requirement, and because we determined that just a letter with questions did not require a vote of the board. So I support sending the letter with the questions.
Very good. Henry, you were next.
Thank you again, Tim. I think we're dancing around the maypole here. I too agree that we decided not to vote on anything, but we read the XCOM authority at every meeting, and XCOM certainly has the authority to send this letter out, in my opinion. It should not include anything about the model law. It should be as written, and I think it's ready to go. And I would encourage XCOM to decide to do that, talk about it at least. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Henry. Mr. Hollingsworth.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I know when I was, I'm the chairperson for the Great Lakes Council, and I do know that we were asked at our meeting to compile questions that we would like to have the president, NCS president, address when he would be at the meeting. So I don't see any real issue with sending these out. Obviously, we didn't have enough time to ask them all these questions, but I was directed to ask, my members to come up with questions, which we did and were submitted. So I think had we had time at the meeting, we would have been asking these questions anyhow and getting verbal answers. So again, like everyone said, we're not committing one way or another, but just trying to give them an idea of what our concerns are. That's all.
Very good. Thanks, Jim. Patty, did your hand back up or did I miss knocking it down?
I think you must have missed knocking it down. If I raised it again, I didn't mean to.
Nope, that's fine. Just making sure I don't step over you. Mr. Craddock.
I agree that we should send this out. I do like Davy's addition that there are people here on both sides of this issue. Just simply that statement that it's a divided issue among us. Whatever Davy said, I use his words rather than my poorly choice ones. But I agree that you have the authority, or the XCOM has the authority to send this letter out, and they should.
All right. There were a couple of questions thrown in the chat about Mike's statement about model law, Mike McEvely's statement about model law. Yes, that's going to have to be completely reviewed again to incorporate any kind of changes here. So I guess until this thing really moves forward and gets a green light from NCSS, I would, it would be my recommendation that we don't do anything more with model law and just wait and see where the chips fall on as far as this thing goes.
Well, if I may, Tim, it just occurred to me that if there's a new path to licensure in mapping that includes authoritative mapping deliverables, would the model law for land surveyors at the end of this process no longer include authoritative mapping deliverables?
Having been part of the committee that rewrote the Illinois standard that included a lot of this stuff, and then listening in on a lot of the things that were going on through model law here, I think because this is a new pathway, that I think it would be an expansion of model law that would basically break it up into, it wouldn't be, I don't know, maybe it becomes model law for engineers, surveyors, and whatever this thing's going to be called, mappers, what have you. Because you're right, it's going to split up the term of what authoritative means depending on what role you take. So I think that's something, and there again, that's for another day, another challenge, another fight, I would think. Let's see. Then there was one from yeah, Allison. You're right. Once everything's together, a white paper with some answers and really some direction from what NCSS is doing. I think the sooner we can get some questions answered, the sooner we can put something definitive together that we can blast out to all of our members, knowing exactly what the intent of all of this is based upon these questions and concerns. I think we get that out, and that's part of what we're talking about here in increasing our communication and being able to do this a lot faster than waiting to all this stuff. Well, let's talk about it again in the fall. No, let's try to move on some of this stuff during these meetings, and hopefully we can get some of these answers and some of these this content out to our members that much faster. So our membership sees that we are that responsive. And we've got our ear to the ground with all of this. So no, that's a great request there, Allison. Thank you very much. Mr. Craddock, do you still have your hand up, or did I miss you?
I think I got confused. I think you put it down, then I put it back up, and I don't know which way it's supposed to be now.
Okay, nope, you're fine. Mr. Murphy, and then we're up against some time here, and I've got one little final thing I'd like to say, but go ahead, Tim.
Just real quick, you guys are in Ghana. I certainly have no problem.
Brisbane, I've been to Ghana, don't want to go back.
Brisbane, sorry. I may have a conflict on the 10th. I think we should consider postponing it till the 17th when you guys are back. And the topic that's important, we probably should have yours and Linda's input anyway, but for whatever we do. If we can get a letter out, if we don't need to wait for XCOM and we can do it by email, I'm all in favor of that. I personally would prefer we get a letter out before you guys leave for Brisbane.
Tell you what, why don't we'll circulate amongst the XCOM about revisiting that week and see if what does work. Maybe we can make something. Okay, yeah, Nancy, we'll double check and see what that motion was. I think it was just a matter of sending it out. I don't think there was any specific dates, just a matter of getting some questions out. So we will confirm all of that, and we'll get that motion out to everybody that wasn't there. If nothing else tonight, bug Trent. He was taking copious notes. He may know exactly what we were talking about as well. So one last comment. I mean, I did have another little presentation, but we're out of time. I'm going to go ahead and leave this recording on. I'm going to run through the presentation. Everybody, if you want to stick around and see what I've got from Land Surveyors United, that's fine. You got other places to be than to sit and listen to this at this time. Go right ahead. I'm going to go ahead and record this so we've got it. So just so you know, we will go ahead and put this together. One thing I want to say about all of this mapping license thing, that I am shocked that nobody has talked about this. What we're talking about realistically in the surveying world is a lot of these tasks that would be done, if they were done in our office under our direction, they would be done by technicians. Let's see, is Mr. Ellerbrock still on? Hey, there's Mr. Ellerbrock. We talk about a career path. Why don't we not talk about this today, but put this in the back of your heads and think about this as far as, is this another pathway for our technicians that going through the CST program, this would build up and be able an opportunity. Maybe the CST levels would allow them the experience and certifications that would help them be able to get ready to take a test like this if it does get enacted. Because a lot of our technicians, this is what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to become the top of their game as a technician. CST4 is great. This is a license. This has a little more cachet and a little more authority behind it versus just, and I say just, a certification by a national association, just like an ASPRS certification or a GISP. Think about it in those terms, that if this could be a pathway for our CSTs to go that much further down the road in their careers if they would like. So Kleinman, how many people were on this? We had 47 signed up. I didn't see how many actually made it on, but several people said they weren't going to be able to make it on. They wanted to get on the list so they could see the recording. So anything for the good of the order. And then that way you guys can go ahead if you want to go ahead and go, and I'll do this little Land Surveyors United presentation. What this is Justin Farrow, been around for a long time. He's got a lot of followers. He's put together all these great tools and a lot of content, and also tools for practitioners to take. And if you've always wanted to teach a class, you always wanted to write a book or write an article or write something, he's got tools to help you get started. So this is a lot of the things that he's put together. He's come to NSPS wanting to work with us, brand it as something that NSPS would be behind, and help our practitioners with sharing of their ideas and being able to be better mentors to people. So so with that, let me I'm going to switch this out. If anybody doesn't want to stick around, I would get out of here. It's almost Miller time here, so the rest of you, I guess a lot of people still are working, so I guess I better
Suggestion for the good of the order: make this make your follow-up a separate recording, so we could start that at the beginning and not have to fast forward through this last hour and a half.
You know what? I'll do it separately.
Thank you.
No, that's good. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. That way I can go home. So, all right.
Thanks, everyone. Good to see y'all again, or hear y'all.
Nothing else?
Thanks, everybody.
Yep. I'll send an invite out for the next one. Thank you. Have a good evening.